I coded a SAS product in 3 days. I coded a SAS product in 3 days. This is what I keep seeing on LinkedIn. I keep seeing it on YouTube, I keep seeing it on social media, and it just drives me nuts. Why is that? Because they miss out on so many fundamental things. For example, a lot of these people who say, oh, I vibe coded this thing in 3 days, which is basically what they've done, right? They're taking out so much context of the software engineering stack that I don't even think their applications work that well, if I'm being honest with you. And I went on LinkedIn today, and one of the things that I looked at was, what is the pedigree of the person that's saying this thing, right? Oh, I'm a 2x SAS founder. Yeah, but you worked in HR all the time. So what exactly did you code? Because if you're telling me that you are a HR person, right, or you're a project manager who just went in and decided to go and do the code, you are negating so many things in software engineering that actually makes the profession fun. So what do I mean by this? If you were to learn something that was difficult, yeah, say for example it's coding, say for example you're understanding, like I was looking at a fork bomb, right, from this really good guy called You Suck at Programming, and he's absolutely amazing when it comes to things like Linux. Like, this is one of the coolest engineers I've seen for Linux, yeah, and he was going through something called a fork bomb. When you're going through something like that, there's a specific syntax that you need in order for it to render the Linux system useless, basically. Now, I think a lot of newer age Linux systems are hardened for it, but that negates my point, right? Because that's more of a more advanced thing. But it gets into nitty-gritty of what I'm talking about, right? Why? Because the problem is, a lot of people who go out there and make these vibe-coded apps are taking the face value of what the AI is telling them. Now, that may not necessarily be wrong, right? Like I talked about in, are we using AI wrong video? The point I'm trying to make here is, these people don't have the pedigree to understand what the app is doing in itself from the code level. And then people are going to turn around and say, oh, you're defeatist because, you don't need to know what's going on in the code nowadays. You just tell it on the prompt and it will do it, right? Right? No. Like I've explained before, right? Do not take what you see in the code as face value, right? Run it through the correct security systems, run it through the correct linters, run it through the correct processes in order to ensure scalability and security within your application, especially if you're dealing with user credentials. Especially if you're dealing with user credentials, right? Because if I'm using your app and you're a SAS founder and my credentials get leaked, you better believe people like me are going to sue you. You best believe it. Right? And if I paid for your system, right, I got 14 days to cool off. In the UK, we have section 76. If I paid by credit card, and it's over £200, right? And I'm sure in other countries, there are that thing as well. So that's a legality that you're facing as a SAS founder. Security is not to be taken lightly when it comes to credentials. Trust me. Companies have gone under because of that sort of thing. So when you say that you're a SAS founder, I really hope you understand what you're doing, right? So do not believe the entire thing that AI is telling you. Ensure that you have the correct systems in place in order for that to happen. And if you want help with that, let me know. Let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you, right? And I've especially done that if you're a health professional, right? Because I know a lot of these people in healthcare, they don't really understand the technical things that go on, right? A lot of new people don't really understand this thing. So, yeah, check it out on MedSite Pro if you're a medical professional. But if you're not, don't worry. Just get in contact with me and I'll help you out on that one, right? Of course, for a small fee, right? I've got to throw that in there. But if you're one of the first people to go and see this, then, hey, I'll work something out with you. But again, going back to my point on this, right? Security is being lax. We've seen this with things like OpenClaw, Moltbot, right? If you're using some of these vibe-coded apps, it's not a good practice, right? And what I mean by this is, we're seeing security just kind of go down the window. And it really, really annoys me when some of these people go here and they say, right, okay, you know, I made this application and via a certain company, and then, oh, there's 500 different errors that I didn't previously see, but only 250, less than 250, was 45% of security errors were merged into the production code base. And I was talking with another guy, and one of the things that really annoyed me was that this guy was, and it's usually, you know what's funny? It's usually the guys in their 20s that do this. If it's a guy in his 30s who's been in the industry, he will never say this sort of stuff. He will turn around and say, actually, there are fundamentals. In fact, I went to an interview the other day, and I was asked a very specific question, which was, how do you keep up with technology? How do you keep up with technology that's changing, right? That was one of the questions. I turned around and said, there's no such thing as keeping up. I want to be clear to anybody who's a junior or a mid or a senior level developer, especially a senior level developer, you will hear them say, you cannot keep up with it. Why? And I'll explain why. The reason is because every time a new technology comes out, it's always a rehash of something old. So when they say, oh, you know, are you keeping up with technology? I always turn around and say, what do you mean by this? And I want mid, juniors, and seniors to really think about that question. What do you mean by this? And why is it important to you? Because a lot of companies out there at the moment are struggling with the adoption of AI. They really, really are. And it was shocking to me because the company that I interviewed for was quite well versed in it. In fact, they had a quantum computer. They had a quantum computer, for goodness sake. Outside of the window. So it's just baffling to me about these sort of things. Because I also said in the interview, right, that because you have all this equipment, like, you know, quantum computation, you've got so many different teams. Like, you're in a better position to answer that than I am, right, in terms of that particular question. Because, like I said, right, it changes too quickly, and you guys are the guys who are setting the goalpost. So it's not a case of me understanding the latest and greatest thing. That's just a tick box exercise inside of the CV. At least from my perspective, and for many other developers out there, that is a tick box exercise, right? If I'm learning AI from AWS, for example, right, that is their specific implementation and not the fundamentals that go into learning AI. Yeah? It's not the fundamentals. What do I mean by fundamentals? I'm talking about things like transformers, NLP, right? The almost like dead stuff, right? The stuff that's not sexy. The stuff that says, oh, actually, I probably need to think a little bit about how this is all going to work, right? The parts where a DGX system from NVIDIA would probably be useful, yeah? Especially if I'm learning it, right? Learning about RDMA, learning about the TCP IP stacks, learning about, you know, how am I going to use my infrastructure in order to get these systems running? This is where I think the real value comes. Not about, oh, I'm going to fall into the hype trap of saying, oh, you know, like, how do you keep up with technology? No. We're not going to keep up with technology because that's hype, right? Professionals don't give in to hype. We give in to the fundamentals. We give in to what's underneath, right? Any good engineer will say this. In fact, Dr. J, there's a YouTuber called Dr. J. This guy is absolutely incredible. This guy was a director at Amex. And he has some spectacular videos that say virtually what I'm saying today. So my friends, if you're stuck in this ever weird thing about AI, I want you to understand it's a symbiotic relationship. Don't forget your fundamentals. Don't forget your architecture. Don't forget the end goal that you're trying to build. Yeah? It's a tool, not a product. It's a tool first. I want to be very clear about that. If you're a mid-senior, I don't care if you're a mid-senior, and I don't care if you're a principal. I don't care if you're a junior, right? I'm going to tell you it as it is. I'm not going to tell you it as the business context rubbish, right? I'm going to tell you it as it is. It is a tool first, then a product. Tool, AI. Be it whatever you want, right? Sora, Veo 3, Claude, Copilot, whatever you want. It's a tool. Yes, it's going to enhance your productivity, but only if you know how to use the tool. Just like I use a hammer to hammer in a nail. I'm not going to go there and get a wrench for that. I mean, I could, but I'd be wasting time. Right? So fundamentals first. Learning that it's a hammer, learning that there's a nail, and then tapping it, right? To get into the material that we want. Right? We're not going to, I'm sorry to say this, but we're not going to get a different result, right? Actually, no, we are going to get we're going to get a different result. Like, for example, like if I'm doing a plumbing job and I call an electrician, it's a different result, yeah? It doesn't matter if it's a good system, a bad system that we're working on. It's fundamentally outside of the scope, right, of the electrician. Yeah? Because they deal with electrics. Why would an electrician need to deal with water and plumbing? It doesn't really make much sense. They're kind of opposites. Now, there might be some stuff that overlaps within the course, absolutely. But they're not going to go there and be like a full-blown electrician, a full-blown plumber, whereby, you know, they're going to go into, you know, these HVAC systems or other systems that require, you know, condensers and other kind of boiler type systems, right? To a degree, right? They may work on the PCBs, but not necessarily, you know, the welding, all of that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. So when I see these kind of project managers go in there and I see all these kind of other people, I think to myself, okay, well, if you're the one spouting this stuff, which a lot of the time they are, like especially in the much bigger companies, it really startles me to say that, do you actually, yeah, and I think this is my point of saying, I think technical project managers need to be technically trained, because it's a different language, right? To go from a technical person to a non-technical person. That's a very, very different audience. Yeah? It's very, very different to say, oh, I know how to do Scrum because I've done my Agile Practitioner, or I've done my Sigma 6, or I've done, you know, my ITIL, or whatever the flip you've done, right? Which is fundamentally broken anyway. To then say, right, okay, I am a leader in this because I know all this stuff. You know, no, right? And even if you're a principal engineer, you have a bigger problem, because if you're a principal engineer, now you're not only are you doing development, you're doing architecture and you're doing team management. You're doing all three. And then they'll turn around and then people will turn around and say, well, we need project management for that. And no, project management is a duality thing, right? I want to be very clear about that, because it's technical and it's people, right? Because if I'm a developer and I'm stuck, right, and I come up to you as a Scrum Master, I come up to you as an Agile Delivery Manager, I come up to you and say, oh, you know, I'm stuck on this particular thing, can you help me move forward? Right? Now, there are different ways that you can do that, right? You can empower the person and say, well, okay, what are the thoughts that you're having when you're going through this, right? Like, I can see that you've done a couple of things. What other things have you thought about? Perfectly valid question. Why? Because now we get to understand the thinking behind what's going on, right? And I had one project manager that just didn't understand this. They really just didn't understand this. I sat down and I thought, if you just took a course on this, you probably would understand this. Like just a basic course, you know, and getting stuck at things like Git commits is insulting. I'm sorry, if you're a project manager and you get stuck on a Git commit, right? Writing Git commit -c, blah, 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 dot. Come on. Like, what are you doing in a technical place? What are you doing? Oh, I need your help with this. No, don't take away developer time because of your incompetence. No, learn it. Do it like we did. Go out and find the answer. And if you properly get stuck, then come back and say, oh, I tried these sort of things. Right? Because think about the value in that. And that's one thing that I've had to think about as a developer as well. Like, what is the value, right, of the effort that goes into learning something versus the reward, right? And it's something that we take for granted. And I want to be very clear about this because I see it a lot in teams. I see that there's a lot of siloing going on, and then for some reason we're told to come back into the office like that's going to solve anything. No, there's different ways to solve that problem. Now, if you asked me and I was a technical project manager, this is the way that I'd solve that problem, right? Like, I'm going to pretend like this was an interview for a technical project management role. This is very, very easy for me. I would say something like this. Okay, you guys, it's all very well and good what you're doing some great work. It's all very, we're getting our performance targets in, we're hitting our Scrum goals, we're hitting all of our goals, which is absolutely amazing. The one thing that we need to actually start doing is team bonding. And the way that we're going to start doing this, right, I think one really cool way of doing this is, why don't we go go-karting? Why don't we go to F1 Arcade? Why don't we do an activity whereby all you guys have some really good fun and you just chill for the day, right? You don't need to talk about work. That's up to you if you want to, right? But all we want you to do for that time is just chill. And so many of these events that I've gone to are things like mini golf, like seriously, or they're going out for drinks. Like, seriously, dude, do you guys not know how to have fun? Do you guys not understand that there's a world out there? Like, I wouldn't say that in an interview, but you got to understand that my point is that you've got to understand that there are different things that you can do in the team, right? You could go to another country and experience a different culture, for goodness sake. Oh no, but we need productivity inside the office. What are you talking about? The stuff that you do, your actual infrastructure half the time is not even in the office. It's in somebody else's office that you don't even own. Like, seriously, where are we going? Where are we going as an industry with this? Where are we going as an industry in the IT space? Like, I just do not understand it anymore. It's like, oh no, we need you in the office. We need you to go. We need you in the office. If you're not putting in work, you're going out. Oh no, my business is falling because I don't understand how to get my customer. Flippin' heck, man. Do you not understand that people buy from people? My dude, when you made the company, did you not understand that part? Was this the part that somehow you were trying to banish with AI? Was this your plan? Did you honestly, like, seriously, if you're a CEO watching this and you have an AI company, can you please help me to understand this part, right? Did you not understand that people exist? They have thoughts, they have feelings, they have emotions, they have that shade of gray that's in the middle that makes people absolutely amazing. But no, you just rather beat them down to a stick, right? Oh, follow my script or you won't get it. Seriously? No, right? If you're watching this, if you're still watching, thank you, really appreciate that. But if you're watching this, I don't want you to think that there is a certain script to your life, and I don't want you to think that there's a certain script to these companies. Most of the time, they're just there to screw with your head. Okay? They're there to screw with your head. Because it's not about productivity, it's business. Business, it screws with your head. It screws with your head. Ask anybody. Anybody, they'll tell you the same thing. It screws with your head. And this is what I really just despise when I go into some of these institutions. Some of the stuff that they say, some of the stuff that they talk about just isn't relevant to the real world. Like, think about it. If you're a SAS founder, right, there are certain instances where you could use something like AWS, but VPS makes more sense. And to be honest, it does, right? Why would I spend time with things like ingress costs, right, on a platform like AWS when it's all free for me for a much cheaper price in a VPS? Oh, but you don't have any industry experience. I'm sorry? What do you mean I don't have any industry experience? I've served that many customers. I've served those many people. And you have the audacity to come around and tell me, oh, you don't